Praise the Lord. Let us continue the analysis of Gospel according to Matthew. Gospel according to Matthew, for the convenience of study, was divided into three parts. Introduction, Jesus' ministry in Galilee, and Jesus' ministry in Judah. Now, during the previous classes, we have completed the analysis of the introductory part and the ministry in Galilee. Ministry in Galilee itself was divided into teachings, the works of Jesus, and reactions of people. Now, those were dealt with in the previous class. So, in this class, we start on ministry of Jesus in Judea. The chapters are 19 to 28, and there are three major points that we have to cover in this part. The first one is Jesus entering Jerusalem as king, that is from chapter 19 to 25, and events leading to his crucifixion, chapter 26 and 27, and Jesus' resurrection and the Great Commission is seen in the last chapter, that is 28. So let's start the analysis of the last part of Matthew's Gospel, the ministry of Jesus in Judea. Now chapter 19, 1 and 2. Once we read chapter 19, 1 and 2, it starts like this. Jesus departed from Galilee. So Jesus departed from Galilee and he came into the coast of Judea, beyond Jordan. So till this time, Jesus was ministering in Galilee, and that is why we have given the caption for the second part, Jesus' ministry in Galilee. Now he left Galilee, he departed from Galilee, and he came into the coast of Judea, beyond river Jordan. And the verse continues, and great multitudes followed him, and he healed them there. So great multitudes of people followed Jesus as he was traveling from Galilee, crossing river Jordan into Judea, and to reach Jerusalem, and great multitudes followed him, and Jesus healed people who were following him. Now from this point onwards, Jesus' ministry is in Jerusalem particularly, and Judea in general. Now he presented himself as king in Jerusalem. That is what is explained in chapters 19 to 25. That presentation was a public presentation. He publicly presented himself as king at Jerusalem, that is, as Israel's Messiah king. They were waiting for the coming of the Messiah, and he presented himself as the Messiah, and they were not able to understand it. They were not willing to receive him as king, and that led to his crucifixion, burial, and then his resurrection, etc. Now once we look into chapters 19 and 20, it describes the journey from Galilee to the city of Jerusalem. I hope you will kindly go through those two chapters and gather information as what happened during this journey, Now while he was traveling, he knew what was going to happen in Jerusalem. Jesus had foreknowledge as to what was actually going to take place in Jerusalem. Kindly refer to chapter 20, 17 to 19 and the 28th verse. The Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister and to give his life a ransom for many. So he was convinced of the fact that he came to minister to the people, not to be ministered unto, and also to give his life as a ransom for many. Now chapter 21, 1 to 17. Chapter 21, 1 to 17 explain the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. His offering himself as the Messiah King of Israel. Now it was the fulfillment of the prophecy of Zechariah 9 and 9. Zechariah 9 and 9 reads like this: Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king comes unto you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt, the foal of an ass, or a donkey, So the meek king, he was coming into Jerusalem riding on a donkey, not on a horse, That shows his lowliness, that shows his meekness, etc. And chapter 21, 18 onwards to chapter 23, we see the conflict between the leaders of the Jews and Jesus starts. Conflict between Jesus and the leaders of the Jews. The leaders of the Jews rejected him and he rejected them. The proof is chapter 21-23. 21-23. And when he came into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people came unto him as he was teaching and said, by what authority you do these things, and who gave you this authority? So the leaders of the people and the chief priests questioned Jesus by asking him, with what authority you are doing all these things, and who gave you this authority? Jesus pronounced at this particular point of time, 8 woe unto you in Jerusalem, as against 8 blessed in Galilee. I hope you remember in the Sermon on the Mount in Galilee, Jesus used the Beatitudes, or blessed are you, 8 times. Do you remember that? Chapter 5 and 3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Then 5 and 4, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Then chapter 5 and 5, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. 5 and 6, blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Then 5 and 7, blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Then 5 and 8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. 5 and 9, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. 5 and 10, blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Now these 8 blessings were pronounced in Galilee as part of the beginning part of Sermon on the Mount. Now as we come to the 23rd chapter, Jesus is using again 8 times to the Pharisees and Sadducees and the scribes, woe unto you. I'll give the verses for you to look into. 23 and 13. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. The woe that was pronounced there, because Jesus said, you shut up the kingdom, you don't enter, and you don't let others enter. 23 and 14. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you devour the houses of widows, etc. Then 23:15, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you compass sea and land to make one proselyte. And after proselyting, or after changing their religion, you make them prepare them for hell and not for heaven. Then 23 and 16, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, blind guides. Then 23 and 23, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you omit the weightier things in the law and go after the light things. Then chapter 23 and 25, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you clean the outside of things but not the inside. Then 23 and 27, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you are just like whitened sepulchres. And finally, 23 and 29, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, you build the tombs of prophets, but you kill the prophets yourself. So this must be compared, The Beatitudes or the blessings are pronounced in Galilee, 8 of them, and the woe unto you pronounced by Jesus in chapter 23 towards the scribes and Pharisees can be compared, and you can study how you can be a blessed person or how you can be a wretched person, and how God pronounces woe unto you. So that is chapters up to 23. Now as we enter into chapter 24 and 25, we see the Olivet discourse of Jesus Christ against Sermon on the Mount. Chapters 5 to 7, Sermon on the Mount. Chapters 24 and 25, the Olivet discourse, or Jesus preaching from the Mount Olive. Now this is actually Jesus' prophecy regarding things to come. Jesus was prophesying himself regarding the things which were going to come. Now 3 things were specifically mentioned by him if you read chapter 24, 1 to 3. In answer to the questions raised by disciples. Now, one of the things that Jesus made clear is signs of the second coming of Jesus Christ. Then the second point was the end of the world, how the world will come to an end. And the third point was the fall of the temple and Jerusalem. What will happen to Jerusalem and the temple? It will fall down and there won't be a stone there. Then how the world will end, that was the second point. And the third one, what are the signs of the second coming of Jesus Christ? Now Jesus explained all this in these two chapters using three parables, and he explained about the Jews, explained about the church, and explained about the Gentile nations. It is worth studying these two chapters in depth. I hope you will do that. And Jesus offered himself knowing that he will be rejected, knowing that he will be crucified, knowing that he will resurrect after his death and after his burial. So while he was traveling from Galilee to Jerusalem or Judah, he was constantly referring to his persecution, his crucifixion, his burial and resurrection. I'll give some of the very important references that we have to bear in mind. Chapter 16, 21, 17, 22 to 23, chapter 20, 17 to 20, 26, 28 to 32. At least you go through these Bible verses, both in Galilee and while he was traveling from Galilee to Judea, he referred to this event and made it very clear. 16, 21, 17, 22, 23, 20, 17 to 20, 26, 28 and 32. I'll read out the very necessary Bible references which were quoted just now. 16:21 reads like this: Jesus began to show unto his disciples how that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised again the third day. So he knew it ahead, and he made it very plain to his disciples that he is going to Jerusalem and there he will suffer many things from the hands of the elders, from the hands of the chief priests and the scribes. And then he will be killed, and he will come out of death victorious. He will be resurrected on the third day. Again read chapter 17, 22 and 23. Chapter 17, 22, 23. The Son of Man shall be betrayed into the hands of men. He will be betrayed into the hands of men, and they shall kill him, and the third day he shall be raised again. Chapter 20, 17 to 20 and 26, 28 to 32 says the same thing. So kindly read for yourself chapter 20, 17 to 20 and 26, 28 to 32. Now the prophetic utterances of Jesus in chapters 24 and 25 are getting fulfilled one by one. And we can examine all of them yourself. Now we come to the last 1 week of the life of Jesus Christ. As we come to chapter 26 and 27, we come to the last week, 1 week of the life of Jesus on earth as a man, and that can be given the title Events Leading to His Crucifixion. Events leading to His crucifixion, 26 and 27. Now, Jesus knew in advance all the events that were going to take place. And I'm going to show you some of the verses to convince you that he knew all these things in advance. Now, first of all, following a woman anointing Jesus at Bethany, as a proof, Jesus said in 26 and 12, she did it for my burial. She did it for my burial. So, he knew that the time of his death and burial were at hand. When others condemned this woman, see, Jesus commended, she did it for my burial. Now, if you continue reading chapter 26, when we come to 26 and 25, he told Judas that he will betray Jesus. He plainly told on the face of Judas that you will betray me. So he knew that he will be betrayed, that he will be killed, and he will be mocked. He will be passing through several kinds of suffering before death, and then he will be buried. He will come back to life, etc. 26, 28, he was instituting the Lord's table, while instituting the Lord's table, Jesus said, "This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." So he knew that he will be shedding his blood for the remission of the sins of many. So these are all proofs, when he was anointed, he said, "She did it for my burial." And he said to Judas on his face that you will betray me. And instituting the Lord's table, Jesus said, "This is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." Again, if you continue reading 26, and once we come to chapter 26, 32, he referred like this, "After I am risen again." So till this time he was talking about the death and burial. Now in 32, verse 32, he said, "After I am risen again, I will go before you into Galilee." So now he is traveling from Galilee to Jerusalem or Judea, and now he says, "After I am risen from the dead on the third day, I will go back to Galilee before you. So you will see me in Galilee." So look at the way he knew all the events, all the events step by step. Now if we look into history and analyze the events, it will be somewhat like this. Look at the events. First of all, he withdrew with the 12 disciples into the Garden of Gethsemane, which is explained in chapter 26, 1 to 56. Then secondly, Jesus was arrested, he was betrayed, and he was arrested in the garden, and he was brought before the governing body of the Sanhedrin. We have studied about Sanhedrin, that we see in 26, 57 to 75. There he was condemned for claiming to be the Messiah of Israel, and Jesus maintained his silence. He did not open his mouth. 26, 64 to 66 explains all those things. But he was charged with blasphemy and treachery, and then he was sentenced to death. Then thirdly, Jesus was brought before the Roman governor Pilate, because Pilate had to put his signature and give his consent for the Jews to take an action. That is what we read in chapter 27, 1 to 26. And Pilate also said, "Though I don't see anything in him, any wrong thing done by him, you can take him and crucify." Now based on that verdict given by the Sanhedrin and the consent given by Pilate, the Roman governor, he was crucified. His crucifixion is explained in 27, 27 to 66. Kindly go through that. And Matthew describes the miraculous happenings following his crucifixion and his death in detail. When you compare the gospel according to Matthew with other gospels, Matthew is the only person who describes the miraculous happenings following the death and burial of Jesus in detail. I hope you will take time to go through all that and familiarize yourself with chapter 27, the last part of 27. Now chapter 28 is the final concluding chapter of the book of Matthew, or Gospel according to Matthew, which describes the glorious resurrection of Jesus Christ. The glorious resurrection of Jesus Christ from death on the third day is explained in 28th chapter. Now initially the angel announced the resurrection. That is what we read in 28, 1 to 7. Angel announcing the resurrection to people who went to see him before the tomb. And later he was seen by the disciples and many others. That is explained in chapter 28, 8 to 10. You can just read these verses and get to know. And Matthew also tells us that the Jews lied about the resurrection of Jesus. That's one thing again recorded by Matthew, not by the other writers of the gospel. Chapter 28, 11 to 15 explains the lie that was fabricated by the Jews about the resurrection of Jesus Christ. And following the resurrection, he gave the Great Commission, which we read in chapter 28, 16 to 20. So that is the gospel according to Matthew, and we can get to know the events specifically if you analyze all details that are explained finally. Now we will be taking one more class to review the final events of the life of Jesus Christ, which are very relevant. Thank you for joining me. I hope you followed the journey to Judea and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ from the chapters that we have analyzed from 19 to 27 and resurrection in 28. May God bless you. Thank you.